be at 500 to 1. This is my favorite part of the night. I've been waiting all night for this, and I know many of you have as well. Stephen A. Smith is joining us on the phone here on SportsCenter. Stephen A., LeBron is a Laker. The floor is yours. Go.
Well, first of all, I'm ecstatic. I think it was the right situation, the right call for him to make. He wasn't going to get anything accomplished in Cleveland. That was obvious. Philadelphia, it just wasn't a good fit for him to be paired with Ben Simmons, not to mention the fact that, in terms of their playing style and the locale as well, going from Cleveland to Philadelphia, just didn't make much sense. But the big thing is that you got to give kudos to Magic Johnson. LeBron James came into town last night at midnight, East Coast time, 9 p.m. West Coast time. They were free to talk to folks. Magic Johnson snuck away from the media, met with LeBron James at his home last night at 9:01 p.m. West Coast time.
Wow.
They stayed there for 3 hours. They talked back and forth with one another about what the goals were. LeBron James understands that this, as of yet, is not a championship team, which is why the 4 years, $154 million contract is fully guaranteed. There is no opt-out as far as I know. I have been told it is not an opt-out. It's LeBron James committing to the full 4 years in Los Angeles, just like he committed to the full 4 years in Miami. That is the situation right now. They recognize the fact that they're building something. LeBron James and Magic Johnson, again, met last night at 9:01 p.m. Pacific time. They met face-to-face. They talked for 3 hours. And more importantly than that, in the 16 years that LeBron and Magic Johnson had known one another, they never sat down face-to-face.
Wow.
Until last night.
Unbelievable information from our Stephen A. Smith. Magic on the doorstep right when he had to be, and then a talk for the ages and a move for the ages. I know this is going to be received differently in very many quarters. I think we obviously know what the reaction is going to be in Los Angeles. If you're a Cavs fan watching SportsCenter tonight, and Stephen A's on talking about it, after 2 runs, a title for the first time in a half century, brought it home, everything he's done for the community. You're a Cavs fan right now watching. What do you say to them?
Well, first of all, you be grateful that you had him for the 11 years that you had him, the first 7 years of his career, and then 4 years after he had spent 4 years in South Beach. He didn't have to come back, but he fulfilled a promise that he had made to the locals. He grew up in Akron, Ohio, just 45 minutes up the road. He came home to Cleveland, Ohio. He came back to Cleveland, Ohio, specifically to deliver on a promise that he had made to that city, that franchise, and Cavs fans everywhere to erase a curse that had spanned more than a half century. He fulfilled that promise inside of 2 years, stayed an additional 2 years, took you to the NBA Finals each and every single year he was in Cleveland. And by the way, he did a tremendous amount for the economy. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been poured in to the Cleveland, Ohio community because LeBron James existed there. So when you look at what he has done, his pros far, far, far outweigh any cons that might be associated with his, his exit. And that's what you have to be grateful for. You didn't have to have him for the last 4 years that you had him. You had him because he made a promise to you, and he was an honorable enough man to fulfill it. That's why you have no vitriol. You should have no vitriol towards him whatsoever.
No question about it. It reminds me of a piece, Stephen A., we ran on SportsCenter as we were waiting for this decision, where a gentleman that worked in between the queue and the baseball stadium for the Indians said, LeBron is my income. Wherever he goes, I follow. Well, things are going to change. What do you got?
I have an additional piece of information for you pertaining to LeBron and the Lakers, if you don't mind me saying so.
Of course, go ahead.
One of the other things that's going on is that R.C. Buford, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Los Angeles Lakers have been on the phone on already 2 occasions today, and they're expecting to communicate with one another a 3rd time this evening. From what I'm being told, San Antonio is asking for the house multiple draft picks along with the young players. The Lakers have made it very, very clear they're not giving up the farm. Kyle Kuzma is off limits. They're not willing to surrender him in order to get Kawhi Leonard. They're not willing to surrender 3 picks in order to get Kawhi Leonard. Their mentality is Kawhi Leonard says he wants to be a Laker. So whether it's this year or next summer, eventually he's going to be a Laker. You need to get something while you can. San Antonio is holding down the fort. They're being incredibly stubborn, which is their right and obviously smart on their part. And they want to make sure that they get as much as they can from Kawhi Leonard. The Lakers have not given up. But if a deal isn't made by sometime, maybe tomorrow morning at the latest, then the Lakers will simply assume that this is not going to happen and they will move on.
How about that? So a little bit of a timetable there from Stephen A. Smith on what could happen with Kawhi Leonard. So let me ask you that. Let's just assume. Go ahead. What do you got? You got something else?
The other thing is that according to a couple of other executives, because of the personality of Kawhi Leonard and what transpired last season, they've said to me, don't rule out the possibility of Kawhi Leonard sitting out next season before he's willing to come back to the San Antonio Spurs. That's how badly he wants out. That's how badly he wants to remain in L.A., and that is the situation. That is the news that I have.
Okay, I just want to have you react on that. That is beyond toxic and radioactive, if you're telling me that's what's going on. What would you think if he employed that method?
Well, I will say this. If he employed that method, it would be highly unprofessional, incredibly unfair, and just trifling on the part of Kawhi Leonard. Now, again, these are what executives and league folks are saying. I did not hear this from Kawhi's camp. I did not hear this from Kawhi Leonard. So the point is, let's make sure we're clear about that.
Okay.
But in light of the fact that he was confronted by the San Antonio Spurs, and specifically Tony Parker, and that made him incredibly unhappy and feeling offended, combined with the fact that those feelings haven't necessarily been assuaged, and he's still insistent upon ending up in L.A. The basic message to me has been rule out nothing with Kawhi Leonard if San Antonio is not going to let him out of there. Anything is possible. They weren't saying he's going to do it. They're saying his temperament and his conviction towards ending up in L.A. to play with the Los Angeles Lakers is that strong that anything is possible right now in order for him to send the message that he wants to send. That is what I have been told.
Unbelievable. Tony Parker, several months ago, many of you may recall, came out and said he essentially had the same injury as Kawhi did, but his was, quote, 100 times worse, kind of tweaking Kawhi and then saying he loves the Spurs team doctors. He was in surgery 48 hours later, and I think we know what Kawhi feels about the Spurs team doctors. This is unbelievable. Stephen A., let's just say that Kawhi is off the table just because of the things that have been speculated here in the last few minutes. If you were Magic Johnson or Rob Pelinka right now, let's just take Kawhi out of the picture for the moment. What would you do next? Because I can't imagine this team is going to look like it is today on opening night, right?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't give up on Kawhi Leonard.
Okay.
What I would do is I would offer Brandon Ingram. I would offer a Josh Hart. I would offer 2 first-round picks.
Wow.
All right? I would definitely do that. I would do everything that I could to hold on to Kuzma, but I'd give them pretty much anything else that they wanted outside of Kyle Kuzma. That's number one. If I couldn't do that, then what I would do is I would make a call for Boogie Cousins. Boogie Cousins is not going to be ready to play before January. It's quite possible he might miss the season, but because of the injury that he's coming off of, regardless of what he wants, he might come on the cheap. And if he's going to come on the cheap with the promise that if he's healthy and produces, they'll take care of him later down the line, you never know what he might entertain for the opportunity to compete with LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. So that's another move that I would make. And then another thing I would do is get on the phone and see what I could do about getting my hands on Kemba Walker. So I'd make a call to Mitch Kupchak, the general manager in Charlotte, with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has ceded all power over basketball operations to Mitch Kupchak. He's not going to bother him. He's going to let him do what he wants to do. But with Kemba Walker looking to get up out of there, if I'm Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak, I might see what else I'm capable of getting for the services of Kemba Walker, particularly if I'm hearing that once his contract is up next season, I might be out. These are the kind of things that I would consider for the immediate moment.
This is amazing because remember, Mitch Kupchak for many years was the architect of the Los Angeles Lakers, was jettisoned just about a year ago. And to think that Mitch could come back and perhaps facilitate a deal, that would be juicy.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
He's not going to, facilitating is the wrong word because, again, he's going to try to get value. Remember, there's got to be some bitterness on his part.
Sure.
He was a Laker for life. He obviously did a good job, believe it or not. His only mistake is that he aligned himself with Jim Buss. But as a result, Jeannie Buss made the move to push him out the door. You don't know what kind of residual effects that left behind, but you never know. He might be in the mood to do business, or the Lakers reaching out for Kemba Walker might force other teams to pick up their phones and say, excuse me, we might like a Brandon Ingram. We might like a Julius Randle. Here's what we're willing to do, what we're willing to give you in order for you to make the kind of deal since you were willing to unload those guys. So the Lakers are officially open for business. It's not a matter of just LeBron James arriving. It's the fact that since LeBron James has arrived, it's opened up the floodgates for Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka to have their phones ringing off the hook as to who potentially may want to do business with them because they know the Lakers are not finished doing business.
Last thing, I know you love the NFL. I know you love boxing. We've talked about boxing many times on SportsCenter, but I know basketball is your first love. You just turned 50 years old last fall. Is this one of the biggest stories you've ever opined on or covered?
Well, the biggest story for me was LeBron James going to Miami.
Okay.
And it wasn't just because I broke that story. It was that you didn't see that coming, and he had paired with D. Wade and Chris Bosh and the big three coming together. That was a huge deal. But this is big in a different sense, and it's certainly one of the biggest stories I've ever been associated with, simply because LeBron going to L.A., understand what that means, with the exception, Zubin, of Elgin Baylor, who retired midway through the season, the 73 season, the 71 season, whenever it was, that the Lakers won the championship with Jerry West. With the exception of Elgin Baylor, every big-time marquee name that has played in a Los Angeles Lakers uniform has delivered a championship. So now it's about LeBron, not the immediate moment, not this year, but LeBron certainly doesn't want to be a guy that comes to Los Angeles and doesn't deliver a chip. From the days of George Mikan to Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with Magic and Worthy and Michael Tyson and everybody else in between, to Shaq and Kobe, to ultimately Kobe, every star that has worn the purple and gold representing Laker Nation has delivered a championship spanning 50 years. LeBron James does not want to be the one guy that fails to do that himself, and that is the difference.
Great historical context.
That's what makes this story special.
Incredible context from Stephen A. Smith. Also, the first to report that Magic was at LeBron's doorstep at 9:01 p.m. Pacific last night, 1 minute after midnight Eastern time. And as Stephen A. called him, the biggest chip has been acquired. Stephen A., we will see you tomorrow morning on First Take at 10 a.m. Eastern. Can't wait to get your thoughts then. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, not only that, that's going to be on ESPN2, but the regular crew, Max Molly and myself, will be on ESPN Live from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. all week long this week.
Oh, that is fantastic to hear. I should mention we do have Wimbledon on ESPN. That will preclude the gang from getting together in the morning, but we'll see them in the late afternoon to early evening. Looking forward to that, Stephen A. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course, the great Stephen A. Smith opining here on that. Again, 9:01 at the doorstep. When you think of the Showtime Lakers, you think of Magic, you think of Kareem,